They say every place has a story, but some stories were never meant to be told. Deep in the forgotten woods, where the wind never rests, stands a house that time itself has tried to erase. People call it Blackridge House, a place so consumed by darkness that even the moonlight avoids its windows. Those who pass by feel the air grow heavier, their hearts beat faster, and an unshakable dread takes hold. It is said the house is alive, that it breathes, that it watches, and that it hungers for something far more precious than life itself. It hungers for souls. Victor Harlow was a man blinded by ambition. He believed he could conquer anything, even fate itself. When he found the land that would become Blackridge House, he saw beauty and power where others saw danger. He ignored the whispers of the villagers who spoke of restless spirits buried deep beneath the soil. They said the ground had been used for dark rituals long before his time, that it was a place where souls were trapped between life and death. But Victor was deaf to warnings. His wealth had made him believe that money could silence any curse and bend even the supernatural to his will. He designed the mansion with precision. Every room was crafted to reflect his greatness: tall marble pillars, endless corridors, and grand staircases that stretched into shadow. He wanted eternity to remember his name, yet from the moment the first stone was laid, the land began to resist. Tools broke for no reason, workers fell ill, and strange symbols appeared on unfinished walls as if the house itself was trying to speak. The villagers refused to come near after sunset. They said they could hear the cries of those who once rested beneath the earth when construction was complete. Victor stood before his creation, proud and defiant, but the air around him felt heavy. Every breath he took seemed stolen from something unseen at night. He began to hear faint whispers coming from the walls, voices that sounded almost human, almost familiar. His wife tried to dismiss them as imagination, until she started hearing her own name being called softly from the darkness. Mirrors showed fleeting reflections that moved differently from their owners, sometimes smiling when no one else did, and doors opened by themselves as if inviting something unseen to enter. Victor refused to leave. He believed the mansion was testing him, that greatness demanded sacrifice. So he stayed even as the nights grew longer and the air turned colder. He stopped sleeping, his eyes hollow from the constant feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed alive. Every corner breathed with silent hunger. Until one stormy night he finally understood that the house was no longer his creation. He was its prisoner, its offering, and the land beneath had claimed what it was. Owed. The disappearance of the first family became the most terrifying chapter in the legend of Blackridge House. Victor Harlow, his wife Eleanor, and their young daughter Clara moved into the mansion with dreams of luxury and peace, unaware that the walls already whispered their fate. At first, everything seemed perfect. The grand halls echoed with laughter, the chandeliers glimmered like captured stars. But beneath the surface something was stirring. The servants began to quit one by one, claiming to see shadows that stretched too long, or hear footsteps following them when they were alone at night. The air would grow thick as if the house itself was breathing with them, watching them, waiting. Eleanor was the first to notice the changes. The mirrors no longer showed her reflection. Clearly her face appeared pale, blurred, almost fading, and sometimes another face looked back at her, one that smiled cruelly when she did not. Clara began speaking to someone she called the woman in the walls, and her toys would vanish, only to be found days later in impossible places like sealed cupboards or high beams no one could reach. Victor dismissed it all. He refused to believe his perfect home could betray him. But each morning new marks appeared on the walls, symbols scratched deep as if by invisible hands, and the scent of decay filled the halls. Even though no body could be found, one night the neighbors saw lights flickering violently inside the mansion. They heard screams that carried far into the forest. When the sun rose, Blackridge House stood silent, its doors wide. Open, the dinner table was still set, plates untouched, food cold, as if time itself had stopped. But no one was inside, not Victor, not Eleanor, not Clara. The searchers found nothing. Only the faint outlines of 3 figures burned into the wallpaper near the dining hall, as though the walls themselves had swallowed the family whole and kept their final moment trapped forever. After that the mansion became a place no one dared to enter. Windows shattered on their own. The garden withered, and strange whispers echoed through the halls when the wind blew toward the village. Those who stood close enough to hear swore they could make out a man's voice, calling for help, a woman's cry, and the faint laughter of a little girl drifting from the house that would never let them go. The house feeds on fear, and it learns from every soul it consumes inside its walls. Reality bends and twists until nothing feels certain. Those who enter describe a suffocating silence that presses against the skin, a silence so deep it feels alive. The air grows colder with every breath and shadows stretch in. Unnatural ways, as if they are reaching toward the living. The house does not simply haunt, it studies every heartbeat, every whisper of panic. It knows what terrifies each person the most, and it turns those fears into weapons. When you walk through its corridors, the walls begin to shift, the rooms change shape, doors appear where none existed before, and familiar voices call your name. Sometimes it sounds like a friend or a loved one lost long ago. Sometimes it's your own voice echoing from the dark, pleading for you to stay. Every reflection becomes a trick, every sound a lure to draw you deeper. The house feeds on emotion, it drinks fear like blood, and the stronger your terror, the stronger it becomes. People who have entered and survived, even for a short time, tell stories of hallucinations so real they could feel the touch of cold fingers on their shoulders, or smell the faint scent of decay that followed them even after they escaped. One man swore he saw his dead mother sitting in a chair, whispering secrets that only she could have known. Another claimed that the walls pulsed like a living heart, each beat growing louder until it matched his own. Then it stopped completely, leaving him gasping for air, as if the house was deciding whether to let him live. The longer you stay inside, the more it knows about you, your regrets, your guilt, your hidden nightmares. The house turns your mind against you. It recreates moments you never wanted to remember, and traps you inside them until you lose the will to fight. Some say it whispers your fears into the walls. Others believe it feeds on the energy of pain and sorrow. Every scream becomes a part of its structure, every drop of despair another layer added to its being. Inside Blackridge House, fear is not just an emotion, it is the key that keeps the monster alive. Even after all these years, the haunting of Blackridge House has never stopped. The mansion stands like a wound that refuses to heal, its windows cracked and dark, yet sometimes faint light flickers behind them as if something still moves inside. On quiet nights, travelers passing through the old road swear they hear music drifting through the fog, an old piano playing by itself, out of tune and broken but steady like a heartbeat that refuses to die. Some say it is the echo of Victor Harlow trying to call out for help. Others believe it is the house mocking those who still dare to remember. Those who have entered since then never return. The few who tried to explore it left their cameras running, but every recording ends the same way. The footage begins clear and steady, until strange static takes over. The shapes inside the rooms twist and melt, and just before the screen turns black, a voice whispers something no one can understand. The investigators who review the tapes claim they feel watched. As they listen to them, some even claim to see movement in the reflection of their screens, as if the house itself is looking back. Locals tell stories of lights glowing behind the upper windows on stormy nights, the same nights when the wind screams through the trees like voices calling out for mercy. There are reports of figures seen at the windows, a woman in white, a small child, a shadow that seems too tall to be human. They appear for seconds, then vanish, leaving only the faint outline of a handprint pressed against the glass. People who live nearby say the house changes its shape subtly each year, its roofline shifting, its walls cracking open and closing again, like a creature breathing in its sleep. The air around Blackridge House feels wrong. Birds never land on the roof, animals refuse to cross the property. Even the grass grows in strange patterns, as if avoiding certain spots where something invisible lies beneath. At night, when the fog rolls over the hill, some claim to hear crying from inside. But when anyone dares to go closer, the sound turns to laughter, a cold, low laughter that rattles through the bones and lingers in the mind for days afterward. The house seems aware of everyone who looks at it, as if it remembers every soul that has come too near and marks them forever. So if you ever find yourself near the old path where the trees twist like bones and the wind carries whispers that sound almost human, do not look toward the mansion. Do not follow the flicker of light behind its windows, because the house remembers every soul that steps too close and once it knows your name, it never forgets. It waits in silence, patient and hungry, listening for the sound of footsteps that will one day lead its next victim home.